Save you from saying something you didn't want to. Welcome back, everybody. We now have officers from NBN Co, and I'd like to welcome Mr Philip Knox, the Interim Chief Executive Officer. Would you care to make an opening statement?
I would, Chair.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Well, good evening, Senators. Since our last appearance in June, our Board announced the appointment of Ms Ellie Sweeney as NBN's new CEO. Ms Sweeney will join the company from Vocus, where she has served as both CEO and Chief Operating Officer. The Board and the company are delighted with this appointment, and we look forward to the wealth of experience and deep understanding of the telecommunications sector Ms Sweeney will bring to the role when she commences in early December. I would also like to take this opportunity to mention that NBN's Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Ms Felicity Ross, has accepted a role at Optus as Managing Director of Corporate Affairs and Marketing. Ms Ross will be leaving NBN at the end of November. For more than 6 years, Ms Ross has led this function through prosperous and challenging times and provided exemplary leadership to the company. We wish Felicity all the best in her new role. I'm joined this evening by the Interim Chief Financial Officer, Mr Richard Cairns, our Chief Network Officer, Mr Dion Labanovich, our Chief Development Officer for Regional and Remote, Mr Gavin Williams, and our Chief Customer Officer, Ms Anna Perrin. As our time is short, I'll keep my remarks very brief. In August, we announced the company's full-year results for FY24. The company met key financial and operational targets set out in its 2024 corporate plan. Highlights for the 12-month period to the 30th of June 2024 included total revenue of $5.5 billion. Our earnings before interest, tax and depreciation and amortisation, or EBITDA, was $3.9 billion, 9% higher than the previous financial year. Capital expenditure for the 12 months, 30th of June 24, was $3.76 billion. In FY24, the company received $771 million as an equity injection from the Commonwealth Government as part of its commitment to provide up to $2.4 billion towards full fibre upgrades. We raised just under $6.5 billion from the debt capital markets and bank facilities during FY24, which enabled the company to refinance the remaining balance of $5.5 billion of the $19.5 billion Commonwealth loan on time in June 2024. I'm also pleased to share that NBN has achieved its best service performance results since before the initial build of the network was completed. In August, we saw our lowest incoming service incident volume since January 2018 and our lowest mean time to resolve over the fixed line network since March 2020. In addition, at the end of FY24, fibre to the node service faults were down 27% compared to the previous financial year. We closed the fiscal year 24 with more than 8.6 million homes and businesses connected to the NBN network. That's an incremental increase of 50,000 premises compared to 30th of June 2023. On other news, we have recently reached a significant milestone with more than 9 million homes and businesses now able to access NBN ultra-fast speeds. We're seeing demand for fibre upgrades at an all-time high, with more than 500,000 premises across the country already ordering a full fibre upgrade. Since June 2020, and inclusive of the government's contributions, we have announced investments to upgrade the fixed line and fixed wireless networks totalling over $6.5 billion. The company's network investment strategy is designed to keep ahead of national data demand by rolling out new fibre deeper into communities and enhancing the capacity and utilisation of its fixed wireless and satellite networks. In a rapidly evolving competitive landscape, delivering on our objectives and essentials. This is about much more than a commercial outcome, as crucial as that is to sustain the growth of our business. It is also about the intrinsic value that NBN adds to Australia, such as a cumulative GDP uplift of $122 billion for the period from 2012 to 2022. Growing revenue while driving down costs means we will have the funds needed to reinvest in our network for the benefit of all Australians. This is critical for driving digital inclusion and creating social, economic and environmental benefits for the nation. Thank you, Chair. We're now ready to take the committee's questions.
Thank you, Mr Knox. Appreciate that. Senator Sharma.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Mr Knox, and good evening to you and your colleagues. Your former CEO, you mentioned your head of corporate affairs, Ms Ellie Sweeney's commencing at Optus or going to Optus?
No, Ms Felicity Ross.
Sorry?
Ms Felicity Ross.
Oh, sorry, Ms Ellie Sweeney's the new CEO, right? Sorry. So, and when is she commencing, Ms Sweeney?
It's on the 3rd of December.
Sorry?
3rd of December.
3rd December, okay. And I understand that the former CEO, he's been paid up until the 4th of November, is that right? He's still been on the books until
That's
yesterday?
correct. That's correct.
What's his capacity in which he's been employed? Because I saw in your financial statements he's been paid $1.425 million in the last 6 months, but he hasn't been a key management personnel figure.
That's correct. It's in the terms of his contractual arrangements. He was required to give 6 months' notice, and as per the contract, he is moving to an industry competitor. So it's important that the protocols are respected in regards to IP and those sorts of things. So it was important that he fulfilled those terms of the...
Yeah, no, that's why I was curious. I mean, what ongoing service was he able to provide the NBN, given he's going to a competitor?
So it was a number of things that was agreed with the board as to how we would like him to contribute to the organisation. One was handover to myself in regards to day-to-day activities and things that were on his plate and future meetings and those sorts of things, and to conduct a year-end review of the executive team, because he was best placed to do that, and a couple of other minor things like that didn't contravene the protocols and conflicts of interest.
Has it been like a full-time equivalent commitment, would you say?
I'm sorry, Senator.
Has it been like a full-time equivalent
No,
commitment?
Senator, certainly not.
Okay, but the figure that you got in the report, that he's received $1.4 million
As per the terms of his contractual arrangements.
That's correct, okay. All right, so it seems like a very large amount. It's more than the Prime Minister earns each year, I think.
These were the entitlements that were established when he first established his contract under the previous government, Senator.
Thank you, Minister. And then just on the financials more broadly, so I was having a look through your annual report. It's still true to say that the NBN is targeting profitability, right? That's the intent, for it to become a sustainable business enterprise that's profitable?
Certainly, absolutely.
Okay. How much debt does the NBN currently have?
We currently have drawn debt of about $27 billion.
Okay. And how much interest are you paying each year on that debt? What are the financing costs on your borrowings?
Last year was about a bit over $1 billion.
A bit over $1 billion. So $1 billion.
1.1, I think.
Okay. And what was the free cash? I think I saw a figure here. The free cash flow figure for the year ending 30 June 2024.
Yeah. So it was a negative $1 billion and.
Yeah, Senator, that's referred to on page 88 of the annual report, where you can see the free cash flow for the year ended June 2024 of negative 1,386 million.
Okay, so 1,386 million or 1.386 billion.
Correct.
And how does that compare to the 12 months ending 30 June 2023, the free cash flow?
Yes, Senator. For 30 June 2023, there was a negative, a cash outflow of approximately 1.1 billion. So the increase in the cash outflow was due to the network investment strategy that Mr. Knox referred to as part of the introductory statement. So we spent additional capital expenditure, close to 3.8 billion, which was primarily to lift both the fixed line network and also the fixed wireless network. So that's an aggressive capital expenditure program to deliver the fixed wireless upgrade by December 2024 and to complete the build of the 3.5 million FTTN to FTTP by December 2025.
Okay.
That's the key driver.
It's still a $250 million deterioration in the free cash flow.
It is. I'd also highlight at the top of that table the operating cash flows. So we did generate an increase in operating cash flows from 3.3 billion in June 2023 to 3.6 billion. So that's really driven by the underlying performance of the business, increasing revenue, reducing operating cost, ongoing efficiencies in how we operate, including the best service assurance results that Mr. Knox also referred to. So the underlying performance is improving strongly. It's just the additional CapEx in June 24 that drove that result.
And that's by design, Senator. That's what we're here to do, is to invest and improve and upgrade the network.
Well, so just on that, I mean, the customer numbers, so I saw a figure that you had 8.61 million businesses and households connected at the end of the
June
financial year
24, correct.
2024. And the figure the year before was, I think, 8.56.
There was a 50,000 increase in net activations during that financial year.
But that's an increase of what in percentage terms? 50,000 over 8.56 million. It's about 0.58% growth.
That's fine, yes.
Correct.
Is that the sort of growth you're targeting? I mean, that's borderline flat growth.
Well, we have, of the 12 million available premises, we have 8.6 million. And that difference is, at the moment, is
So that's your total addressable market, right?
total addressable market. That's correct. So there's we have acquired a lot of the users, the premises that are available at the moment, that are freely available at the moment, and then the growth comes from largely new developments. Again, that's always as per plan. So this is as it was expected. It would taper off. We've had significant growth as we've transferred them off the Telstra network onto our network, and now it's a case of adding it largely through new developments and retaining and acquiring new customers or customers that are no longer on the network that have.
But would you expect, I mean, do your forecast suggest more than a growth greater than 50,000 households and businesses over the next financial year?
Well, we always knew the growth would slow after that initial rollout. So the initial migration period, the mandatory disconnection period, of course, we saw huge numbers of activations. The initial build finished in 2020. So since 2020, we've seen a slowing growth in the activation base. So, we would anticipate some ongoing growth, but certainly at a slower rate, given the number of premises connected to the network remains fairly steady.
It's the nature of these infrastructure assets. That's pretty much how you build it. They come on, and then it stays at a pretty steady rate from here on in.
But then I'm just curious. I mean, how is it you're going to become profitable if you've got negative free cash flow, spending about $1 billion a year in interest on debt, customer numbers are flat, no real prospects for growth? When does the NBN become profitable? How does it become profitable?
Well, the cash flows we just discussed was the investments that we're making in order to upgrade the network.
But I mean, and that upgrade, do you expect to deliver more customers or higher revenue?
No, you expect to have a reduction in that investment. So yes, it does, and it also allows us to improve the quality and the speed and the resilience and the reliability of the network. It reduces our costs quite substantially over time because the copper network requires a lot of those elements in order to operate. So it's a cost reduction in costs and an opportunity to grow our revenue by people's end users self-selecting high speed tiers, of which we now can provide as a result of investing in the new fibre technology.
So part of it will come from users paying more?
If they choose to.
Okay. Can I just break down these customer numbers, if you wouldn't mind just giving me a figure? So the three categories you've got are, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, satellite, brownfields and fixed wireless, is that correct?
Ms Perrin is our expert.
Okay, sure, please, Ms Perrin.
Yeah, that's correct.
Can you just give me what's the current figure or the most recent figure you have for satellite customers and how that's tracked over the past 12 months?
I don't have that number in front of me, actually, Senator. I know that our satellite footprint, we has gone backwards slightly over that period, but I don't have the number to date. Mr. Williams, do you have? We'll get that number for you.
Yes, I've got a figure in front of me, and you could confirm or correct me here. 84,866 in September 2024, which compares to 108,000 in June 2022. So that's a loss of over 20,000 customers in satellite in the past 2 years. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. And then brownfields, do you have figures handy for that? Again, I've got figures, but I don't want to...
I don't. Again, I know that our the brownfields number has gone back as well, Senator, but there's a number of reasons for that I'm happy to talk through with you as well.
Just briefly, if you don't mind, just the headline points for why it's gone backwards.
Yeah. So
And actually, satellite too, headline points for why those numbers have gone backwards too, if you're happy to do so.
So with regards to the brownfields number, so in the calendar year this year, so from January to the end of September, we've gone back 34,000 premises in terms of the premises count. But there's a number of reasons for that, and we don't track customer data, Senator, as we've discussed at these hearings before. It's premises. So it could be that it's a case of a customer has moved home, so they've gone from one home to the next. They may remain an NBN customer, but we see a disconnect and then a reconnect. But there's also, and that's just the nature of the way we do, and 1 million Australians move home a year. There's also another category, though, that shows up in our numbers, which is that we think approximately 25,000 homes every year go from being a brownfield to a greenfield. And just to clarify what that means is, you may put planning permission on your house, you may subdivide it, you may build a couple of homes on your site. So 25,000 a year are in that category. And then, of course, we also do face competition in that space, particularly in areas where there's a long copper loop and where performance on the copper may be degrading over time. And that's why our fibre upgrade program is so important as well. And I'm sure Mr Williams can answer on the satellite.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Ms Perrin. Mr Williams?
Yes, Senator, I think I've given testimony here in the past about the satellite service, and essentially...
I was keen to hear it again.
Yeah. So, the context of regional comms has changed significantly over the last pretty much half decade, and there are choices now for customers that there previously wasn't. A decade ago we used to talk about a data drought in the bush, and nobody talks about that anymore. So the choices available for customers in regional Australia, in more remote parts of Australia in the satellite footprint, there are more choices available, and Sky Muster is one. There are an expansion in mobile plans and expansion in mobile networks that customers are picking up, and there are new satellite offerings in the market that some customers are choosing as well. For NBN's part, we're expanding, as part of our fixed wireless upgrade program, actually expanding the coverage of our fixed wireless service to convert what previously were satellite premises mapped for the satellite service to be fixed wireless. So whether connected or not, the volume of that's about 120,000. So the footprint for on the network report, which I'm sure you're referencing, you'll see the number of ready-to-connect premises. You'll see the satellite number of ready-to-connect premises is reducing, and the fixed wireless ready-to-connect premises increasing, and that's as a consequence of us building out our fixed wireless service to offer an improved service for our customers in adjacent areas from our existing fixed wireless footprint.
Okay. And then fixed wireless, who's the best person to just...
I can have a crack.
So fixed wireless, again, my understanding is the numbers are basically flat in terms
pretty
of...
flat.
Okay.
Yeah, the context of fixed wireless, similar, I'll have a similar response in respect of competition in regional Australia. Where we've been on the fixed wireless service over the past 18 months or so is a significant generational upgrade to that product. And through that upgrade, it has impacted customer experience as we've upgraded some towers. Now, we've invested heavily to initially do night works and then put temporary infrastructure so we can minimise disruption. But the reality is, unfortunately, some of our customers have been impacted. For those, I'd like to thank our customers for sticking with us. We are at the tail end of that upgrade now. We've got more than 85% of physical upgrades completed in that network, and the service is now offering a massive uplift in the lived experience for our fixed wireless customers, with actually average busy hour speeds for our most popular products, with new terminals of about 100 megabits per second and new speeds up to 400 megabits per second, which is so this is the kind of speeds that we couldn't have contemplated a decade ago. So subject to competition, but at a point where we have significantly invested in the value proposition for our fixed wireless customers. We're starting to see what I'd call green shoots in respect of customer growth in that network.
On fixed wireless, you're starting to see green shoots?
Yes.
So when you're next year at estimates, I'll expect the customer numbers to have increased above 398,000?
I'd love to be able to report that to you, and can't wait till February.
Okay. And then the last category is Greenfields, is that correct? For the full service categories, satellite, brownfields,
Yes.
fixed wireless and greenfields? What's happening there with the
We're,
customer numbers?
we're really pleased with our Greenfields growth. So we continue to see very strong customer growth in that sector. There are two parts of our Greenfields business. We compete for new developments. There are some new developments which are competitive, and then there are some that are part of NBN's mandate. And we continue to see great customer number growth from that segment. So overall, for this calendar year so far, we've added about 80,000 customers in that footprint.
Okay. So all up, the sort of net 50,000 increase in customers for the financial year has come from Greenfields, offset by losses in the other three categories, basically. Is that the...
We are seeing
summation?
that we are seeing people reconnecting as well, Senator, in our numbers. So there is, I mean, in the brownfields numbers, there is a lot of movement every month as people move homes. We only see the premises count, so we don't see the customer side of the ledger, but we can see that there are premises that the reconnection on premises is strong. But what has slowed down is what Mr. Knox referred to and Mr. Cairns referred to, which is the acquisition engine in the brownfield space has definitely slowed, and that's a result of the fact that there are less customers for us to go and acquire for the first time now.
Okay. Do you have a target year for when the NBN will become profitable?
Senator, we don't provide forecasts, and we've discussed this at previous hearings. We issue bonds to a global market, and it's not like equity. It's akin to equity, where you cannot provide forecasts because people trade on those forecasts, and if you get them wrong, it's quite litigious in various markets. So we don't provide any forecasts.
Okay, you don't provide forward guidance on earnings or things like that?
Not publicly, no.
No, okay, all right. I'm just, okay, but I am concerned probably that the deterioration in the free cash flow, the stagnation of customer numbers, I mean, the only thing that can give here is higher efficiencies, lower costs of the provision of goods or more revenue per customer.
And also lower investment in total, so the lower the capex bill. I mean, if you halved our capex, for example, as a hypothetical, then you've got a fair bit of cash being thrown off. So it's.
But you're not profitable, if you halve the capex, for argument's sake, if we can't.
But it's about cash, right? Profit is accounting. It's a lot of historical and complex rules in all of that to give you that sort of result. So it's really about how we generate cash going forward.
All right. Just last question from me. I do have a question which I'll put on notice about NBN connection at Glenmore Park, which I think I asked about last time, but I'll put that on notice. Just the low Earth orbit satellites, the request for information that NBN Co put out in June 2023. Where's that process up to? So this is to offer the kind of Starlink competitor service, for want of a better term, is that correct?
Well, where it's at. So the context to our satellite network is that we have two birds in the sky, the Sky Muster constellation.
Yep.
They'll run out of fuel in the early 2030s.
What will happen to them then?
They'll go into a disposal orbit.
So
so there are options now. There were options now that weren't available at the time. I mean, there are options to refuel geosynchronous satellites now. So it's not the case that we've got an immediate imperative to see the retirement of those assets. But our mind has turned to what would be or what could be an appropriate alternative technology, and to that end, we think we understand the geosynchronous market quite well. The RFI and that process has enabled us to explore other technologies, being emerging low Earth orbit technologies. There are a range of earnest questions that we would have to be able to make a decision as to whether a LEO kind of technology could be or should be part of NBN's technology stable. So whether it's technologically suitable, whether we could come up with appropriate operational arrangements, whether there's appropriate security arrangements, and whether sovereign issues can be adequately managed. So that said, it's important that we undertake a calm and prudent review in the context of not being in a running race. So that is continuing, and.
How many responses have you received to the RFI? How many is it closed, the RFI?
Yeah, the RFI is closed.
How many responses? So
the nature of the RFI we've discussed. I know you have powers to compel. The nature of the responses are confidential, and we've taken the view that NBN's position, or the position of the counterparties as part of that process, could be compromised if we were to breach those confidentiality arrangements.
I'm just interested in the number, not the names of identifying. Like how many?
Well, so it was a closed RFI process that went to. We invited.
Oh, so it wasn't an open RFI on Oz tender or something.
No, I mean the nature of these low Earth orbit constellations. We know who they are.
You know who the players are.
Yeah. So it's not a case of just putting in the local paper. So we were able to invite respondents from known players in the sector.
Okay, but it's true, isn't it, that there are private operators who are considering or have underway plans to provide LEO. LEO, yeah, that's correct.
Services, low Earth orbit, yeah.
But not just Starlink, other players in this space, right? Who are planning to.
Yeah, there's companies have made announcements as to their. Some of them have made announcements as to their intent, their intended markets, as to whether that's a focus on, for example, consumer-grade service, which is NBN's core mission, versus, say, business-to-business kind of services. So those are the sorts of considerations that are being explored through that process.
But is there a risk that the NBN will be late to the party here then, given that there's already an offering in the market? There's likely to be at least one more in the next 12 months, possibly more.
Well, I think the fact that we're 2030s for a replacement decision, and we're in the market now. So I'd say that we are exploring options well before a time frame that we would otherwise.
This is envisaged as a replacement to Sky Muster, not an augmentation, not a parallel service offering.
Well, all of these options we need to contemplate, but broad answer, yes.
Okay.
So the exam question is along the lines of should NBN offer somewhere between an NBN-owned network assets such as the Sky Muster constellation, or other technology and operational and commercial models that would make more sense for customers in the bush.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chair, for your indulgence.
That's all right. I got all excited. You said last question, so I started moving ministers. All good. Thank you very much for coming in, and again, sorry for keeping you waiting so long. We're going to release you. Thank you so much. And that does come to the end of the communications, and we will now take a very short break while we switch across to arts.